Welcome to Juval Hub, your helping hand in property management education. We are so thankful that you have joined us, and please remember to follow and like us on your favorite social media outlet, which you can find in our show notes. Now let's get started.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Juval Hub podcast, your helping hand in property management. It is my esteemed privilege to welcome back Rick Ellis from Ellis Consulting to the show. He's had numerous appearances on the show. Rick, thanks for coming back and seeing us again.
It's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, another great topic. Love your blog. Love your years of tenure in this industry and what it brings to the table. Today, we are talking about raising rents and keeping residents longer. And for those who are listening right now, we're not discussing asset management. We are focusing on purely the act of raising rents and what does it take from a customer service perspective, from your on-site management perspective. Rick is going to help us really appreciate where those work hand in hand. So let's kick it off to you, Rick. Is this the time to be raising rents? I mean, everyone's minds right now are thinking of inflation. What's your thoughts?
Well, a year ago, we were raising rents like crazy. No question. And things have started to plateau as far as rent increases. And of course, you hear all about inflation and layoffs in some of the big tech companies. But I still believe that with the right preparation, we can still increase our rental rates. Maybe not the same amount we did a year ago, 2 years ago, but there's definitely some room there if we realize that we have to earn that. So the key, is not just raising rents, but it's keeping residents longer. And I'll tell you right now, there's somebody right now listening thinking, you don't understand my market. I mean, we can't raise rents. We've lowered our rents and we have more incentives than ever. Absolutely, I get it. The key is, what will it take to keep your resident longer? What will it take to sign them up for 12 more months? And this is not really a lease renewal podcast here, but in a sense, it's all about that. So whether you can raise your rent 20%, which you probably can't, or you need to actually offer a rent renewal incentive, let's focus on keeping the resident longer, because the biggest cost, after we get a new resident is that turnover, which we want to make sure we don't force that in any kind of rental adjustment situation.
Yeah. So I want to circle back to that too. There's a couple phrases I've heard out there. The trying to retain the resident 60 days before renewal versus trying to retain the resident the day after that they've signed their initial lease. So I want to come back to that and get your thoughts on it. But you mentioned something just a moment ago about rent increases and resident turnover. So I think still in the audience, they'll be like, they just feel that phrase and it makes them jittery because turnover means more work for them.
Oh, yeah.
So why even consider a rent increase if it means we can keep the people on site?
See, I've got to say this very selectively, okay, because every market's different. In fact, every apartment community in every market's different. And there are properties right now where you shouldn't raise rent. Yeah. And if your owner heard that, he'd kill me. But it's true. The market drives what you can do with rent rates. But we have to start at the right place to even consider how much we can raise rents. I mean, we've got to be providing stellar customer service. And that's just not, podcast gibberish here. That means that people really love what you're doing. And they're telling others, and we've also got to consider the resident's point of view. Some of them, they're looking at the same news that we look at, and they're hearing all about inflation and we're going to heck in a handbasket, which is not true, I don't think, but we've got to figure that out. And then we've got to be, really genuine, authentic with our residents. In fact, inflation, which everyone's hearing about, is a great reason for raising rent. So I get all excited, I just go crazy here. I mean, when someone says, oh, inflation, you segue right into that. You're absolutely right. Inflation. I mean, our prices are going up just like yours. We have to raise the rent so we can continue to give you that service that we know you love.
Yeah.
And so is it the right time? I believe it still is. In our little management company, we manage single family homes and duplexes all over Dallas-Fort Worth. We're still raising rent, but we're not raising it as aggressively as we did 2 years ago, 1 year ago, but there's space there. But we focus on keeping that resident. That's the key, so it starts really on move-in day. We make sure that on move-in day, we start the process of retention. Actually, I like to look at leasing like online dating. and so now think about this.
Yep.
You're romancing the prospect, right? And then you propose. You open up the box and you say, "Will you lease from me?" Right?
Yep.
And then what does that make the move-in day? It's the wedding, right?
Yeah.
But as we all know, all of us married people, after that wedding, that's when the hard stuff starts, right? The marriage. And you look at it that way. You look at this as a long-term relationship. And so you've got that increase in mind. It's coming, but you're thinking, what are we going to do to earn that increase? What do we have to do to make sure that when the time comes, they're going to say, oh, I don't love the increase, but I certainly wouldn't want to take the chance of losing this great service, this great environment, this great staff, and trying my luck somewhere else.
I love the visual, Rick. I think that really helps our audience get an understanding of what it takes, the amount of effort and energy you have to put into, as opposed to, which is what I was alluding to earlier. You want to go back to the marriage scenario. You get married and then you don't talk to each other for 10 months. And then on the 11th month, you're like, oh, hey, do you remember that I love you? We got married a year ago. Like, how well would that work out? So I think our audience really can.
And you wonder why there's a divorce.
Right. Exactly. I mean, it's just over. It's over before you even think about it. So it's such an important point to remember for everyone listening. The day of that lease renewal, you're, like you mentioned, you got to be working on that retention. So anything else you can add to that? Like you have these rent increases. What else keeps residents? Anything specific you'd like to share?
Now, this is the classic. We always do this. But see, you can still use what's happening right now in the nation's economy, inflation, and costs are going up, including moving costs. And as many do, it's often good to actually walk them through what it would cost to move. And they're gonna go, gee, I mean, that's ridiculous. I might as well renew. Maybe it is 4% more than I'm paying now, but it's less than an actual move. And there was a study, I believe it was done. It was done by, I think, rent.com. I'm trying to remember. Anyway, they showed that renewal increases are still less than the price of a new apartment. In other words, you can renew for less of an increase than you would if you went to a new apartment. And I think that's something everyone's feeling. Even though rates have leveled off, they're still higher than most people's renewal rate.
How important is customer service? It's the lifeblood of any business, even property management. Customer service training can keep your business healthy. Juvo Hub is happy to announce its new online course, Customer Service Fundamentals. Learn more about this course at juvohub.com, your helping hand in property management education.
Yeah, very good. So
anyway, it's just better to stay put. When they fill out, what it really costs to move.
Right.
But that's in combination with the way they've been treated and the service that they've experienced during the marriage.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Very good. Good picture. There's a lot of factors that are involved, and I like that point that you highlighted. It's like sometimes that education of like where if the other options out here are actually going to cost you more money, time, so on. Maybe they don't know that. So we really need to be aware of what's going on in our market. It was my takeaway. Like, do you know exactly what's going on outside of the costs of your particular community? What else is happening in the community? What are comps doing? What is happening with utility costs? And like you mentioned, moving costs and other things. You really need to be in tune with that. So,
and how do you know what your neighbors are going to be like at your new place?
Right. Right. Yeah. Very good. Yeah. A lot to build on. A lot of that. And I think that would probably be another whole podcast, that building that community. You need to have that foundation there, but that's I know another whole item to talk about. But today we're focusing on just, okay, we want to keep our residents. We know rent increases are happening in some form or another across the country. You've really helped humanize it by a lot of your comments. The need for resident retention from day one. So is it resident retention with like just email saying, hey, your renewal's coming up, or what's your philosophy? What do you teach in classes, Rick, when it comes to what does that interaction look like to get that resident to renew?
Some companies have really neat programs where they have a touch point, like the first month, in 3 months, in 6 months, 90 days before, and those are really neat if you have some organizational technology to do that.
Right.
It's hard, but overall, I believe our residents in 2023, with all the technology we throw at them, with all the really neat amenities we have, with workspace, with Wi-Fi everywhere, with these incredible common areas that are just places that anybody would love to hang out at.
Right.
They still want 4 things, really. I mean, if you don't give them these 4 things, Jonathan, everything else is an insult, really. First, they want to have an immaculate environment. Now, you're nodding your head like, okay, well, go look at a typical apartment community, and you might be surprised, at what you see.
Okay.
We just need to really focus on spotless, clean, green, pristine. Second thing is with all the services we provide, maintenance still becomes the hub. Mm-hmm. If we don't provide great maintenance service, and it can also be FEP, fast, efficient, and professional. We've talked about FEP in another podcast. Yeah. And that includes, friendly communication from the office staff. Now you say, well, how do you deliver that? You make sure there's options. There are plenty of residents who don't want to see you and don't want to talk to you. They want to just text or email. So you have those kind of portals, but then see, you're really open to the one that walks in the door. I watched somebody on one of our lease ups, an unnamed property, unnamed company. Someone walked in to put in a service request, and the leasing professional berated her because she didn't use the resident portal.
Right.
I know. Look, I know what that is, guys. Don't say, "Oh, boomer." Okay. We have portals in my management company where residents can. But if somebody wants to do that, put it in for them.
Right.
Oh, my goodness. I mean, let people communicate the way they want to. The other thing that people want, and you can't promise this, but they want it. They want safety and security.
Right.
And that's called good neighbors. And I think more good residents move over safety and security than we can even imagine.
Right.
Because they don't say that. they just don't feel comfortable. And finally, of course, and goes beyond just fair housing, they want fair and equal treatment. They want the rules to be applied evenly and fairly. So it's immaculate environment, fast, efficient, prompt service, good neighbors, and then fair and equal treatment. Now, once we give them that, everything else really feels good, all the extra amenities. But you may have a top of the line fitness center, but if the staff treats you like you're a nobody, that fitness center is not enough. It really isn't. And once you do that, again, once you set up a good relationship, a good marriage, then you can really get more increase, or an increase. I think that's the setup's the hard part. It really is. And we can talk for a minute about types of strategy for the rental increase too, if you want.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're painting a nice picture. We're getting a great overall timeline. We've covered it is possible, so at the beginning of this podcast, you were highlighting the fear or the rigidness towards the phrase rent increases. We've talked about how it can actually keep residents. You highlighted that. And what are your, let's go on to that. So your suggestions, we want to be able to we need to submit, we need to tell them there is going to be a rent increase as of whatever.
Legally, state by state, there's different notices. Many of us do that in 60 days. We require a 60-day notice. So, we also then submit the increases with a 60-day notice.
Right.
Now, when you do that, see, it gives the resident 60 days to look around. That's the thing. If you're going to do an increase, and I know this is in the best case scenario, if you can present an increase and sign the renewal right then, you're way ahead.
Mm-hmm.
I know we still communicate by text or email a lot of times about the renewal and the increase, but if we could just put a little more personality into it, and there are things you can do. Some strategies, and it's complicated, but not more complicated than other things we do on site. Is let's say we raise the rent by $300, but there's a $100 discount if they sign the renewal in 10 days. How it works, we do it. Or you raise the rent $100 more than what you really are targeting, but you give them $600 off the first month of the renewal. And of course, you're not at risk. Big discounts on the first month can be risky with a new prospect because they move in, they move out. But with a good long-term resident,
right,
giving them that special on the renewal is a big deal. But you're making it back on the rental increase. It's all part of the strategy, or even offering those two things as an option. We're just not very creative anymore with renewals like we were at one time. I also, and this is going to sound crazy, but say you've reached out and you just haven't got a response yet from somebody. Maybe you've even called them a couple times. Look, we're on-site management. What's wrong with walking over to their apartment and knocking on the door, wearing your name tag and your big smile, and having either a tablet so they can renew electronically, or the paper so they can sign right now. And don't tell me it doesn't work, because I've done it, and it's actually very effective. And you don't do this without being totally prepared with whatever you need and whatever's available to negotiate on the spot. It's the renewal process and the rent increase process is not a paperwork transaction. It's a releasing of the apartment to the person who lives there now. And sometimes, bless our hearts, we send out our leasing people to do that. And we've taught them a leasing presentation. They know to greet, qualify, demonstrate, and close, right?
Right.
But we never taught them a renewal presentation. And we have some webinars on that. But the thing is that there really is a process, and there's a way to ask for the renewal. And one of the coolest ways is to give them an option. So they can't say yes or no; they have to go either or. Right. But it's the renewal process is an area still I think we're kind of weak in, and people have really had a good run of renewals the last couple of years. People have renewed like crazy because of COVID. Yeah. I think we've been riding, on the back of COVID a little bit on renewals. It's going to get tougher now because rents have gone up and people are going, hey, I'm looking for options. We need to really be ready to negotiate the renewal, even negotiate the increase, in my opinion.
Got it. Yeah. Spot on, Rick. And I know you've got so much more in your webinars that you have available on your website, ellisconsulting.com. But a lot of your points made me think of different stats and things that I've seen over the years too. Bottom line is it makes you more money when you renew versus the new lease. It's always the retention aspect is always a better option for a property management company. So a lot of great tips. And again, for our audience, if you want an in-depth education on this, please check out ellisconsulting.com. You'll be able to see what Rick has available for webinars up and coming.
Love it. Yep.
Yeah. So great dialogue, Rick. Like I think when we were doing a little bit of the show preparation, it's like even just that phrase, rent increase, it's a rigid phrase. It's kind of a negative phrase overall, but it is part of what property management is all about. And our listening audience, we need to embrace what that is and just understand what we can do every day from a practical standpoint to be like, for the resident to be like, okay, I know, they know it's happening. It's not like it's a big shock.
Right.
It's just that's the way our market works. Rent increases are a part of it. So,
and a lot of times, when they say, oh, the rents are so high here, they're not really objecting as much as they are complaining. And our response is, I know rents are so high everywhere. I mean, it's just incredible. Yeah. And just go ahead and sign here and we'll have you for another 12 months.
That's right. It's like, yeah, don't react. Don't take it personal. Right. I think that's a great way to close this episode out. It's like, just don't take it personal. It's because we're affected. You mentioned inflation and we're sitting here thinking with that word. It's like, okay, yeah, this went up, that went up, that went up. We know personally where it's gone up. It's just, that's the way it is right now. And we've got to be able to understand that's the economy at the moment and do what we need to do. So thank you again. Thank you again for being on the show. How can people connect with you?
Hey, we're at ellisconsulting.com. Easy. And also our LinkedIn account, as well as Facebook and Instagram. We'd love to hear from you. Take a look at what we've got. And if you'd like to join our Monday Quick Tip, you can sign up either at LinkedIn or on our website, ellisconsulting.com. Yeah.
Sign up for that newsletter, everyone. So, Rick, as always, I appreciate you taking the time to be on our show. You have contributed so much to our industry over the years. And so your tenure and your expertise is really highly valued. Thank you again for being here. Thank you to our audience for tuning into the show. Until next time, class dismissed. Take care, everyone.